Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Friday, January 28th. Technically, this is day 3 in the Big Brother house for the celebrity house guests. We haven't seen them yet, but they're in there. I did have confirmation. I mean, CBS kind of said it, but I did kind of reach out and say, yep, they're in there for sure. So the house guests are in the house, and we know nothing, though. Will the feeds ever show us? We making a sneak peek at some point. I won't be surprised if this weekend we get, 1 or 2 or I don't think 5 minutes, but we'll get a very brief glimpse just to create some buzz. So if you don't have CBS All Access, you might want to get it, although let's be honest. First of all, as soon as it happens, someone will share it. They'll record it and share it online. And if you wait to get the live feeds, you'll be able to use Flashback to go back and see it if you really want to. But in the end, the only time it'll be interesting is right when it happens, because after that, it will be dissected and analyzed and talked about, and watching it won't mean a whole lot. So it would just be for the excitement of getting to see it almost live yourself if it happened to get flipped on. I'm going to pull up my list of house guests here because, I have not read any interviews yet. They were posted yesterday. I've not read any. I've read online discussions of what people said. The one thing I did do yesterday, during my drive home, actually, which is fine, hands-free. I wasn't really looking at it, but I listened to the interviews that Sharon, I don't know why I want to say Shannon. And congratulations, Sharon. I mess up your name too. Sharon from Us Weekly did with the house guests that she posted, or that Us Weekly posted. And it was, basically the audio version of her written interviews. So it may not have had every single thing they said, but it had a lot. It was actually quite long, and it was edited well in that the question was posted, and then you would see most of each individual house guest answers, about would you take your ally to the end, or someone. It usually is a question like, would you take someone that you're close, your ride or die, or the person you thought you could beat to the end? That's usually the way the question's asked, although it was answered slightly different than that, but it was fine. But those kind of things, and you would see each one of their individual answers. Who's your favorite player from past seasons, or what did you learn? All those kind of general questions. And frankly, all of the answers were fairly informed. And it seemed like if the celebrity didn't know an answer or didn't understand it, they actually said, hey, I don't know, I'm not sure, or I haven't seen that, or I've only watched one season, and there was things like I wasn't a huge Big Brother fan until I agreed to be on it. Now I've gone back and watched some stuff. The one exception was Lamar Odom, who was like, yeah, I still haven't watched any Big Brother. Matter of fact, I think once this interview's over, I'm going to go watch some Big Brother. Yeah. So it was the one person and that is why I could see Sharon saying it seemed like he didn't know what he was in for. And he doesn't know what he's in for, or at least at the time he didn't. Now, if he actually went and watched some Big Brother after the interview, then maybe he had a better idea going into the house. We'll have to see. He really didn't come across as kind of spacey as Meta did. Meta was just, in his own little world. Lamar kind of seemed in his own world. He was, the way he did it, I don't know if Sharon was on video with them. Everybody else was looking at the camera, but with Lamar, he was looking off to his right the entire time, like he was watching a TV show while doing the interview. Now, I don't know what he was watching, but he definitely was watching something else while he was doing his interview. Or
he had the camera to his left and was looking at the screen to his right, but he really's got looking out the side of his eye. I don't know. It was a bit confusing. We'll have to see. But if you haven't watched that yet, check out my timeline. I did retweet it. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of the last things I tweeted was that I was really impressed with the interviews. I said it. All of the house guests seemed to be speaking in their own voice. It didn't seem like they were being told what they should say or being suggested what to say. And they were being honest. They were allowed to talk on their own. And it was like, oh my God, this is like how diary rooms used to be, where you just let the house guests talk and you didn't try to shape their answers. So, yeah, it was really good. You should check it out. Check my timeline on Twitter and listen to it or /watch it if you haven't. And again, as far as the house guests, and that's the thing, my whole take after watching that was, all right, I don't hate any of these house guests. I really don't. I think they're all okay. If they're anything like those interviews, I am sure some of them were in celebrity mode, where they were kind of saying, the right things. But the thing was, they all seemed to be honest and open. So, in that way, as I talked about yesterday, they all seem to have some self-awareness. By the way, self-awareness. So, yesterday, when I was doing my CarCast, by the way, I did one yesterday too, I was talking about Todrick, and I mentioned that he had people from, and I said, The Picnic. I could not think of the Cookout Alliance name, and I was like, okay, that doesn't sound right. The Picnic doesn't sound right, and I felt so stupid, and I don't know how many of you are laughing at me right now or shaking your head, but I'm sure some of you are, and I apologize. I don't apologize that I forgot the name of the alliance in the Big Brother sense. I forget that I forgot the term cookout and what it means in general in society. Oh, God, I feel so stupid. It was just like, oh, you dumbass. Oh, and I thought, oh, wow, I said that. What's amazing is no one called me out on it on Twitter. Or is that scary? That means no one's listened. I know how many people listened to yesterday's CarCast, so what is it about? I think about 400 had listened by the end of the day yesterday. So that's not surprising. I think my numbers were in the last season. I was averaging like 800, 1,000, 1,200, somewhere in that range at the height of my CarCast. On any given one day, that many people would listen to. I don't know. I can't remember what the numbers were, but they were good. They were still. I would spike too. But so 400 for a week before Big Brother's on. Good deal. We'll see how many we get today. I don't know if I'm going to do a CarCast tomorrow or Sunday. We'll have to see. There's not a whole lot to talk about. I don't think we're going to get much news. We know who's in the house. We know, someone. There's been multiple people doing it, but one person made a chart, which I also retweeted, that showed potential relationships between house guests, celebrities, and there's a lot. There's a lot of relationships, with the exception of the UFC fighting person. Who I don't have my list in front of me right now. It's the name. It's Nisha or Mia, but with the exception of her, everybody going into that house knows or has had a relationship with somebody else in that house. So there's all kinds of potential relationships, alliances, things like that to be worked out. So there will be no shortage of that as a possibility. The ones that seem the most connected were, hang on, I am going to pull up my list now because I know Carson. And it is Cindy or Cynthia. I don't remember what she goes by, but Cynthia is what the name I have. Cynthia and Carson seemed to be the most connected. Now, does that mean that they're going to be the center? Potentially. does it also, but then again, there's another angle here where who is the biggest celebrity within the house to the other celebrities? In other words, Todd Bridges, look, he's been on some more recent stuff, but he is the oldest celebrity in the house, I think age-wise, as well as he was a child star. And while honestly, some of the youngest house guests may not know him or know his work from when they were little kids, they probably know of him. And they may know his story and his, child star. He was on Different Strokes and, all of that. That may get him a little bit of weight, depending on how he carries himself. But he's going to walk in there with some, what's the term? What's the term that all the players use? I can't think of the word. It's a word that some of my sequester fellow players use when you carry and you have a certain amount of leverage just because you are who you are, and that's what Todd Bridges may have. The other person that I thought may have that, well, there's a couple others. Lamar Odom obviously was a very successful basketball player. However, not everybody's an NBA fan, so there's not that. But again, I go back to Todd Bridges is a TV star, was a TV star. And associated with childhood, it's possible that could really get him some decent leverage. Or I'll come up with the word later, and then I'll remember it, and I'll tell you, and I'll shake my head. Other names, the one other name that I thought that this might apply to is Chris Kirkpatrick, just because of his boy band connection, because that was a 90s band. So all of these people on this list, how many of them were actually, quote, celebrities in the 90s? Or were they just somewhat ordinary people? I think he will maybe get a little bit of a wow factor, like, oh, God, you're from that band. I listen to you all the time. And then there was something late that somebody else found out that they posted, or that she put in her interview, that Cynthia put in her interview, that her first crush was actually Todd Bridges. So again, there's another potential, oh, look, there's a connection. You were my crush. Now, there may be a, wow, you got old kind of thing, but you never know. So there's all kinds of potential relationships in this group. And so I'm excited for that. I'm hopeful. I really am. I'm some people are being, I can't tell you this. I don't want to listen to the cookout go on and on about Todrick. And I'm talking about you, Scott, who you don't listen to this, so that's okay. Just the naysayers that are just all negative. Whatever, I don't care. And in the end, even Scott doesn't care. He's like, just give me a good show. That's all I care about. He's more annoyed. He'll be more annoyed with the noise of the people that everything that Todrick does will be treated as amazing and gold and, oh my God, this and that, whatever. That's what's going to annoy him. It may annoy me at some point, but I don't follow a lot of people, so I tend to not see a lot of that stuff, unless they attack me for saying something negative about their favorite. So, I have no early favorites at this point, but I was not disappointed in any of those interviews that came out yesterday. So, get fired up, all right? That's it, guys. I got to go. We'll talk to you maybe this weekend. If not, we'll talk to you on Monday. You have a good one and be well. Bye-bye.